Hi there, here's my daughter, her boyfriend, and my husband, and our son. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. My name is Jennifer Savala, and I am a huge animal lover. In my family, we have 5 pets. We have 2 cats and 3 dogs. We've got a long-haired Chihuahua who's about 10 years old. We have a medium-sized lab, he's 10 years old. And then we have a young husky, she's 3 years old. People have very different views on pets and their tolerance in the cold. Most people think, oh, they're dogs, they have fur, they can stay outside. But a good rule of thumb is if you are cold, they are cold. Because I love dogs, I want to persuade you that it is inhumane and unsafe to leave your dog out in the cold for long periods of time. First, I would like to bring awareness to dogs and the suffering that's going on with people leaving them out in the cold, their injuries and their death. Second, I would like to bring awareness and discuss with you how to tell if your dog is too cold and what are some signs to watch for. And finally, I'd like to discuss what you can do to prevent injury or death to your pet during the winter months. So according to the PETA, which stands for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, it is the largest animal rights organization with more than 6.5 million members and supporters. Each year, the PTA receives reports of animals who have died from being left outdoors in the cold. In 2019 alone, there were 37 animal companion deaths. And that's just the ones that were reported. Unfortunately, there are so many more animals that are dying from the cold that are not being reported. As you read through the PETA's website, you will hear heartbreaking stories about animals, such as the one, there was a dog in Kansas that, after being tethered outside in the cold, froze to death. You'll read about a family in Kentucky who kept their cats and dogs on the porch with heat lamps to keep them warm during the winter. And unfortunately, a fire started, killing all of their pets and including their 12-year-old son. So now let's discuss how to tell if your dog is too cold and what can happen if they are left outside in the cold for too long. Here are some signs from the SPCA that your dog is too cold. If your dog starts shaking, shivering, or not moving at all, if your dog begins whining, barking, lifting their paws up off the ground because they're too cold, change in their behavior such as seeming anxious or uncomfortable, or if you find them trying to seek places for shelter. So frostbite is a serious outcome of a pet that has been left out in the cold for too long. According to the Animal Kennel Club, dogs are at risk once the temperature outside falls below 32 degrees. So just like with human, frostbite is the process where the blood starts to pull away from all of your extremities to protect your organs. Areas that are furthest away from the heart, such as their paws, their tail, their nose, their ears, those are the parts that are going to end up with frostbite the soonest. Extremely low temperatures and wet fur could cause the dog to go into hyperthermia. If hyperthermia is left untreated, this ultimately could be fatal for your dog. So finally, I'd like to discuss what can we do to prevent death and injury to our pets. According to the American Veterinary Medical Association, it is important to know your dog's limits. So just like with humans, pets' tolerance for cold is different, varies from pet to pet. Depending on factors such as their fur, their body weight, their age, their health, their energy level, all of those contribute to how they handle the cold. A short-haired dog will feel the cold faster because they have less fur. A dog that is short, has short legs, they're lower to the ground and their underbody could even touch the snow or the ice, making them colder faster. Older dogs feel it more in their bones, especially if they have arthritis in their joints. Long-haired dogs, they are thicker and they are warmer, but even if they're left out in the cold for too long or too low temperatures, it can begin to affect them as well, especially if they're not used to it. So we have a husky, she enjoys being outside, she has thick fur, Out of the 3 dogs we have, she likes it the best. But she's used to being inside in the warm, so she still can't handle it for very long. Some other suggestions from the American Veterinarian Medical Association is to put a coat or a sweater on your dog if they're going outside. We do that for our long-haired Chihuahua. Even though he has long hair, he is very old and doesn't enjoy the cold. Some other options are to put booties on them when you take them for walks, to trim the fur between their paws to help with ice not getting accumulated there in them. When your dog goes for a walk, antifreeze and de-icer can get on their paws, so it's very important when you bring them in to clean their paws and wash them off so that they're not going to be getting poisoned by licking their paws when they come inside. Finally, they do not recommend leaving pets outside for long periods of time during the cold. And if you must leave your dogs outside, they give you some suggestions on how to keep them warm. So you need to provide them with solid shelter against the wind. Make sure they have unlimited access to non-frozen water. The floor of the shelter should be up off the ground to minimize heat loss into the ground. The bedding should be thick and dry and warm and changed regularly. The door to the shelter should be positioned away from the wind. And although it may be tempting to use heat lamps or heat blankets, those are not suggested because of burns and could cause a fire. So in conclusion, today we discussed how leaving your dog outside could be dangerous or even deadly for your pet. We discussed how to know if your dog is too cold and what are some signs of hyperthermia and frostbite. And finally, we discussed what we can do to prevent death or injury to your dog during the winter months. I really hope that this speech helped you understand the importance of keeping our dogs safe in the winter. And I would encourage you that if you see any dogs that are being left outside, don't have adequate shelter in the winter, to please call your local animal control. Thank you so much.